Right then, let's do Article 16 and hobby flying. Okay, so there's some important bits. We now have Article 16 and we need a video. We really do. So to prep for the video, I thought I would download the BMFA's quick start guide on Article 16. Unfortunately, my printer printed it off in A4 format, or it's not set up right, and well, that didn't print off very well at all. So yeah, I had to throw that away. Now, I did then go in and print off a guide, okay, for model flying. Okay, so we're hobby flying. Though they say model, you may as well just put a little cross through and go hobby flying. Okay, so the BMFA have a guide you can go and download for free. So I started reading it, as we do. Now, there's some important bits in Article 16 we're going to cover. I'm not going to go through every little nook and cranny of Article 16. Okay, the question is, for hobby flying, will it work for you or not with a drone? That's it really. And then what you actually have to do to be able to fly under Article 16 will be the next bit. So first of all, you've got to have an operator ID. You have to have done the Damaris test, okay, and then you have to join one of the 4 associations that Article 16 can be used with. Now, unlike the A2CFC, where you get it and you can just go off and fly, you don't have to be a member of any association or anything, okay. The A3 open category, if you're flying in that, you do not have to be a member of an association of any kind. However, Article 16 is linked to 4 associations, okay? So, it's linked to the BMFA, which is the Society of Model Air and Nautical Engineers Limited, okay? So that's the BMFA, okay? There's the Aero Modelers Association Scotland Limited, and that's the Scottish Aero Modelers Association, okay? So that's good. We've got the LMA, which is the Large Model Association, okay? And then we've got FPV UK. And that's great. So you've got 4 to choose from. Now, the BMFA is £39 a year with, I think, £25 million liability insurance, third party. They do not cover your airframe at all in any of these, okay? When you're a hobby flyer, you take it as a risk that your airframe may not come back. You know, model planes do crash, simple fact. And you're flying under the hobby, so therefore that's the insurance. Now FPV UK, I think theirs is 5 million insurance. I could be wrong, please check, but they're only £19.99 a year, their membership. Okay, now as I was reading the guide, I came across some stuff that made me think that for a short time there, I'm not going to be able to fly this. Okay. Now, it's all to do with the automation words. If you read Article 16, what's really interesting, it says if the aircraft can fly in an automatic flight mode like waypoints, follow me, orbit and all those kind of things, you basically, it was looking like you couldn't use one of these under Article 16 to me, okay. It was looking that it wouldn't be possible to fly the Phantoms or the Mavics and stuff. So I had to do a bit more digging because I was like, okay, so this is the guide, okay. So what I then did is I actually went and I downloaded Article 16. Ta-da! This is actually it. This is the authorization. Now, as I've said, you've got to be a member of one of those 4 associations, BMFA, LMA, FPV UK or the Scottish Aero Modelers Association. Now, once you've joined them, okay, so you still have to have your operator ID and Damaris, okay, you must do those 2 things, okay, that is what you must do, okay. Now, he says, what else do you have to do? Because everyone wants to know. So you still have to pass a remote pilot competency. You can do either, okay. You have to pass one of the following basically. CA Online Demaris, BMFA Online Test, LMA Theoretic Proficiency, or FPV UK Certificate of Competency on Drone Law, which is their A certificate online test. Okay, now that's brilliant. Okay, and you must also confirm to the respective association that you have read and understood the conditions and restrictions that apply, okay, in Article 16. Okay, you've got to take a bit of responsibility for yourselves. Okay, it's just the way it is. So you have to keep a record of the confirmation that you're going to fly to Article 16 when hobby flying, and you must keep a record of that, and that can be made, so basically they can request to see that you have actually agreed to the terms that are in Article 16, and if you're caught outside those terms you can get a slap on the wrist through an audit. Okay, that's simple. So you've got to be aware of that. Okay, you have to be aware that you are not, it's not like the open category where someone won't audit you for your flying. You can just go out in the open category, middle of nowhere, basically fly around within the A3 open category rules. Article 16 has some very clear things that have to be done if you're going to fly under it. But it's not the end of the world, and it's not hard. Now the important bit is, don't abuse it because you'll lose it. You know, multi-rotors used to go up to 1,000 feet. It got abused because the loophole was found and the CA went, And, you know, there's, to me, you know, a model plane flying at 1,000 feet under 3 kilos or 7 kilos versus a drone flying at that height, to me, it's not a problem if done somewhere that's out of the way. The problem is it's the negative perception has destroyed that part of our hobby of being allowed to go up that high because of bullshit like Gatwick, okay, and all that kind of stuff, and the negative press and everything else. This is, and you know, you go onto go onto YouTube, Facebook, people wanting to fly further and go beyond the rules. If you're going to do that, don't want to know. Do not get Article 16, okay? I'm just asking you not to do it because you don't deserve to use it if you're going to do those kind of things. Bit harsh, I know. Feel free to flame me in the comments because I really don't give a. Now, right, so some important bits. So you can't fly waypoints at all. So it has to be fingers on sticks flying. Okay, if you read the BMFA, it looks like if the drone can do any kind of automation, you can't fly it. However, in Article 16, under Section 7, okay, 7.1 actually, definitions, this is where it says you can fly a multi-rotor. So model aircraft, which is what we fly, okay, unmanned aircraft it's actually saying now, being flown purely for recreational sport or for model flying, you know, so you're out enjoying yourself, you know, it is a recreational sport, okay, and this includes home or built aircraft, so it could be from a shop or home built or whatever, which are flown manually, right, using traditional control inputs. And this is the important bit. They are saying you must use traditional control inputs rather than any automation. Although you can use automation for stabilisation purposes only. So, for example, as I said, this can fly waypoints. That wouldn't be possible under Article 16, okay? However, it could be flown fingers on sticks, okay? However, now this little fella, okay, so this is a bit of a different ballgame. This thing would be able to fly under Article 16 because it's just using the flight controller for stabilisation, okay? And that's what I thought it read as. I thought I would only be able to fly this under Article 16. However, there is a little bit here that's quite interesting. So, it's got a note, okay, so under section 7.1, part 8 and then note 1. This includes multi-rotor aircraft which are being flown with direct control inputs and without any automation other than flight stabilisation purposes. So a Mavic, for example, has to have flight stabilisation. There's no way it will fly if you took out the flight controller. It's that simple. Okay. okay? However, like I say, you couldn't put it on a mission. You couldn't use it like with drone deploy. You can't use it with Lich's waypoints. You couldn't even do a 360 PANO with it automatically. Any kind of automatic flight engagement is a no under Article 16, okay? Very important. Now, so that's the important bit, okay, and that's the really important bit. Now, there are a couple of other bits you do agree to under Article 16, okay? One of them is to do a risk assessment. Okay, so the risk assessment isn't that bad, and if you want to fly in a local park, you can do that, but it depends upon the bylaws, and it does say in Article 16 you have to check the bylaws. However, you'll see a link to the videos. I'll put the card will come up for flying at beaches and where to find places to fly. That'll come up. That's going to be possible under Article 16. I will also put a link on some software for generating risk assessments. And while it's based at the commercial side, actually for hobby flying, it would still give you that risk assessment you want. Okay, please note Article 16, you cannot use it for commercial operations. Okay, it's clear in Article 16, no commercial flying at all. Okay, so that's the important bit. It talks about FPV flying, and this is where we are going to fly the Phantoms in and the Mavics in. And FPV flying, for those that still haven't worked it out, is when you look at your screen like this, okay, you're doing this, the drone's flying over there, and you have a spotter. And this is important in Article 16. You must fly with a spotter if you're flying FPV, okay? And you have to have it so that the spotter can see the aircraft, not the volume of airspace the drone's flying in. They have to actually keep Mark 1 eyeball on the drone, okay? It's part of the conditions of Article 16, okay? Now, this is one of the other bits that we have to be really aware of under Article 16, okay? We have to do the correct reporting to the Air Accident Investigation Board and the CAA, okay? It has to be carried out under the following situations. Okay, so occurrences which involve any of the following. Okay, a fatality, a serious injury, and if it involved manned aircraft. Okay, however, if manned aircraft came into your airspace too low, you will fill an airprox in and you will report them. Okay, drones aren't always in the wrong place, a bit like Gatwick. It's not always the drone's fault, you know. Now, serious incidents or other occurrences which you must report. Again, manned aircraft. Again, if it's flying too low or you believe it is and it put everything at risk and they're breaking the rules, remember, you can file an airprox against them. Operating above 400 feet. Okay, so this is serious. If you're a multi-rotor, you cannot go above 400 feet. There's a hard limit for multi-rotor. Okay, 400 feet. It's because of all the negativity that we've had from the press. It's just because of bullshit, basically. Probably swearing is going to get this video banned. It's not made for kids. Right. Operating less than 50 metres from uninvolved people and something happens. If you was to hit something, but you can operate less than 50 metres. So, but if you have a serious incident or other occurrence and it's within 50 metres of uninvolved people, you have to report it. Okay, and then finally, and this is the one you're all going to have to watch out for, and this is one of the important ones, any instances of a flight beyond visual line of sight of the remote pilot. And I'm just going to put a bracket in there because it should say spotter as well. Okay, it shouldn't just say line of sight of the remote pilot. It should say and the spotter is what it should say there. Now, it is interesting. Now, there are some other bits. If you're a racing drone guy, so if you love to do racing drones, okay, you can now do race meets without spotters in sterile areas. So if you're a group of mates that get together, okay, let's say there's 5 or 6 of you, and every weekend you get together and go out and do your drone racing, okay, create yourself like a little club. It's not hard to do. Okay, just go, okay, we're a club now, these are our kind of basic rules. If you have a sterile area, so let's say you always go to the same field, it's in the middle of nowhere, you can race on the track that you've laid out without a spotter. Okay, now the important bit with this is you do not go any higher than 50 meters. Okay, so you actually have to stay quite low, and that'll be because military low flying aircraft could just appear out of nowhere, or an air ambulance. You know, I know racing drones are tiny and everything, and you're going to be whizzing around at 100 miles an hour, but it just means you don't have to wait for someone to stop fiddling with their drone. You could actually go out and you could race around the track, okay, as long as you don't go above 50 meters, okay. So it could be 4 or 5 of you. You don't have to have the 5th person miss out on the race to be a spotter. They can actually join in. You could all be there. You will need a race director, okay, and stuff, but it's just very simple stuff you've got to do. Don't overthink it. I mean, Article 16 has got a lot in it. Oh, separation distances. So here we go. Separation distances for flying under Article 16, which cannot, and I'm going to say it again, cannot be used for commercial flights at all. It cannot be used with automated flight planning, okay? It is 15 meters takeoff from uninvolved people, okay? It is 30 meters separation in flight, and these are horizontal distances, okay? So think of them as horizontal distances. Also, under Article 16, there is no aircraft rating, which means all those people that think their Mavic 2, the Mavic Air 2, the Inspire, if you think any of your aircraft are suddenly going to be relegated out into the middle of nowhere in open fields, Article 16 just became your aircraft's lifeline. Because under the A2 CFC, okay, you can do commercial work, okay? So I'm now talking about the A2 CFC, just in case you hadn't gathered. The A2 CFC wins, okay, if you want to do commercial work. That's what you need, okay? If you're going to fly anything between 250 grams and 500 grams in the A1 transitional weight class, okay, the A2 CFC wins, okay, because that's no horizontal separation at all, okay, that wins. If you're going to fly anything, okay, that's 500 grams to 2 kilos in the transitional weight class, in a couple of years that aircraft will not be able to fly under the A2 CFC. It's not C marked or UK marked or any of that stuff. You are going to be relegated to the A3 open category. End of. However, if you're not doing commercial work, does Article 16 work for you? That's the questions you're going to have to ask yourself. Now, what I will be doing, I will do another video a lot more in depth on Article 16. But, you know, you've got to be able to check for flight restriction zones. It should be a lot of common sense. If you've done your DMARES and you've got your operator ID, you've done your operator ID, you've got your flyer ID via the DMARES, you join one of these associations, you take their test as well, right? You could be on the win, okay? There's nothing hard about any of this, okay? And like I say, I'll put links in below for you, and I will also put stuff that's going to be useful to you below for like the risk assessment. Although it's doing commercial risk assessment, I don't think you can get knocked back for doing a risk assessment using that software in a park, okay? It does take a little bit of setting up, the software, but once you've got your aircraft in, okay, you'll be fine. So you can be able to put your aircraft in and you'll be able to do your risk assessment and print it off and create it as a PDF, okay? And you'll be able to take it with you into the park. You'll have your Article 16. You've got to have your BMFA membership or FPV UK membership with you. Oh, this is really interesting. So, one of the things about Article 16 is, okay, you've got to have all your paperwork with you. Now, when I used to work at a big warehouse company, and I was one of the planners in the office. But we had a lot of Eastern European people. But when they first came here, and we're talking right back in 2000, when you talk to them, it was really bizarre. They always felt they had to have the proof of who they are on them. Okay, and they discovered we're not a police state, you know. They got relaxed, you know, they weren't going to get stopped by the police every time the police saw them. They got used to that. But here's the thing. has it become a police state for flying a drone in the UK? Because if you fly under Article 16, okay, you've got to have your association membership. You'll have your operator ID on your drone, right? So operator ID on your drone. You're going to have to carry your membership association card. You will have to carry a copy of Article 16. You will have to have the risk assessment. Oh my God, right? It's worse than driving a car. It really is. I've suddenly realised this. It's actually, right, you have to carry now, right, if you fly under Article 16, right, you have to carry more proof that you are able to do what you're doing than actually proving to drive a car. It's astounding. It's absolutely astounding. It really is. So, you know, big shout out to the organisations that got this sorted, because the hobby side is always interesting, because the commercial pilots out there, and some of them are up their own, think they're better than the guys that do hobby. The problem is the hobby guys can probably outfly them 10 times out of 10. And here's the other kicker. All the top guys in video, you know, the guys that do the film stuff and all that, they come from what? The hobby background, okay? I'm not going to name them, I know a few of them, but they actually come from the hobby background, okay? That's where they learnt their flying skills. That's where they built it all, okay? And they're now top guys, you know, the Marvel films or any stuff like that, the Bonds I know they've done. Those guys came from the modelling background. They learnt their flight knowledge, skills, everything, well before any of this commercial stuff came about. Gone on a rant there, haven't I? Need to stop. Need to stop. I might cut the rant out. I might not. Anyway, so yeah, just to fly a model aircraft now, right? The amount of rules you've got to follow is astounding. It is complicated. You know, there is a lot to Article 16. I'll look to do a more in-depth or full version of Article 16 for you all. This is like the short version. Hopefully it gets you all interested. You don't have to spend £100 on the A2 CFC at all if you don't want to. Remember, Article 16, commercial, not allowed. A2 CFC, commercial, allowed. Article 16, no automated flying. A2 CFC, automated flying. Okay? It's a different set of rules you've got to wrap your head around, okay? Do the tests, you know, look at the associations, join the one that you feel is best for you, okay?